Hey there, just a quick reminder we have a mentorship program if you're looking for personalized coaching and mentorship to help guide you to the next level of your interior design business, whatever that might look like for you, whether it's processes and procedures or what services to offer to how to incorporate wellness, intention, or spirituality into your projects. Come join us over at designcoven.com/join. Or if you're just in search to connect with other like-minded interior designers, you can join our free community, also located at designcoven.com/join. Hello there. Today I have the beautiful Stefanie Caponi on the show. She is the author of The Gilded Tarot and creator of Moon Void Tarot. She is a San Diego-based illustrator, tarot reader, and astrologer in residence for Dame Products, in addition to her personal work with Moon Void Tarot. She has illustrated the young adult series, All Our Hidden Gifts, and The Gifts That Bind Us, Walker Books. Stefanie has been an avid practitioner of magic for over 10 years, combining artwork and her interest in tarot, astrology, ritual, and occult symbolism as an expressive means to heal herself and others. She has worked with Alice and Olivia, Soho House, Bombas, and been featured in Cosmopolitan, Horoscope.com, Well and Good, Refinery 29, and TarotCBD.com. I thought she would be the perfect guest for us. We will be diving in to the north direction of the Feng Shui Map, the gua of career and life path journey. So I thought she would be a wonderful guest to come on to help us with connecting with our purpose, how to find our journey, how do we use the tarot as a guide. She talks to us in this episode about how she first was introduced to tarot, how her deck came to be. We talk about her own personal life path and where she is now, what home is like for her at the moment. One other thing I'd forgotten when we did our episode is I forgot to pull a tarot card because I got so excited that she was here. So I'm going to pull our card for the day right now using Moon Void Tarot. I'm going to read the cards right side up. But let's see what we've got for our card today. And if you're listening to this program at the moment, this card is definitely for you. So our card here, this is the Four of Cups. And the Four of Cups is one of those cards that comes in as a reminder that there are things that are still available to us. There are opportunities that are being handed to us. It's just about changing our perspective, turning to the other direction, taking a look at what is still available versus like just getting stuck into like the mundane or just like stagnant energy. So it's really about, okay, there's an opportunity around me. So where do I need to look for that? Who do I need to connect with? And how can I reap that opportunity? And let's get started in our episode. You're listening to the Holistic Interior Design Podcast. This is a podcast that guides you as a new or inspiring independent interior designer navigating your entrepreneurial path. Here, with my over 20 years experience, I will share my holistic approach to design with intention and ancient practices, including Feng Shui, all incorporating mind, body, and spirit into my design projects. You will also learn from seasoned interior designers as they give strategies and insight of how they built their businesses and continue to work in the field. Together, we will discover supportive trade partners, new ideas, creatives, and inspiring artists from around the world. I am your host, Rachel Lorraine Crawford. We are at episode 6, and I, of course, have the wonderful Stefanie Caponi joining us for our week connecting with the north direction, the direction of career and life path journey. But before we start, I'm going to go ahead and ring our bell and light a candle just to get us centered and in our present space. Just clearing out any energy that's kind of stuck or stagnant in our spaces and opening up the space for connection and communication possibilities, all those good things. And with that, I'm going to light our candles, calling in that beautiful element of fire. Perfect. Welcome, Stefanie.
Thank you so much for having
Good.
me.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so what are you drinking? I always like to start with a little bit of a brew to see what we're all kind of ingesting, connecting with the plant kingdom.
I am enjoying my coffee and soy milk and double fisting with water.
Fantastic. So you're a major coffee girl.
I am a huge coffee girl.
Amazing.
I do like tea, but coffee is more my jam.
Yeah.
How about you? What are you enjoying today?
Today, I've got an Earl Grey Lavender, which is from, of course, Paru Tea here in San Diego, and she hand makes all of her blends. So this has black tea, bergamot oil, lavender, and cornflower, which is, those beautiful blue, and then flowers with the lavender, which is really, really pretty. And then it's loose leaf, so we get to see like the actual plants, which is really cool. But typically in the morning, I start with a cappuccino just to like perk everything up. And then I can only handle so much caffeine in that way. And then I go into the teas where I can slow down. So that's what I like to do.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That looks beautiful.
I know that's like the pretty part about it is just looking at the plants and how they open up and just like spring forward. So. But I wanted
Love it.
Yeah, I wanted to bring you on. I shared your deck, the Moon Void Tarot, I think on episode 2 or 3 with my Feng Shui teacher. And it got me thinking, I was like, oh my God, why don't I need to bring Stefanie on next. Like she's totally in alignment with this direction of path and journey. And I remember when I reached out to you in the very beginning of my Patreon to come on and talk about your deck, and you're living on the East Coast and I was here in San Diego, and then you're like, actually I'm gonna be moving to San Diego, and you're still here. Yeah.
I am. It's wild.
It was so cool. And then we got to meet up and like the whole thing. So I'm just so excited to have you here again to share your wisdom and your deck and in your journey with everybody that's here. So can you give us a little bit of background of how you first came to tarot and what that looks like?
Yeah, so I was first introduced to tarot when I was 14, I think. I had a girlfriend right when I moved to Florida. I met this girl and she was like super witchy, and I'd always been in Catholic school, so I didn't really know anybody that was deeply into it. And she had a tarot deck, and I was just so mesmerized and into it. And I saved up my babysitting money and went to Barnes and Noble because there were no witch shops, and there was no internet because I'm a little bit older. And they had one deck. It was just a Rider-Waite-Smith, and then like the book that comes with it. And that's what I used for the first 20 years of my practice before indie decks were a thing. And I didn't, in Florida, there wasn't a super witch positive community.
Right. And then how did you come to creating this? Like, when did this all go down, creating Moon Void Tarot?
Yeah, so I kind of went through my own tower moment in life when everything crashes down at the same time. I had been married for 14 years and the relationship ended. I realized I didn't want to work in my career anymore, and I didn't want to live in Florida anymore, and it was just a whole thing. And that's really what brought me back to tarot. It was really like the most supportive thing that I had at the time, and kind of going and reconnecting to my intuition was huge. And I ended up packing my car with just a few things. I got rid of everything I owned. I had a 3-bedroom house. I gave everything away. I quit my job, left my husband, and got in the car and drove to New York by myself. And I
Wow.
got there, I was like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't have a job lined up. I just, have my savings and a cat, and I don't know what we're doing. So I rented a really cute room in a house, like a old early 1900s house on the beach in the North Fork of Long Island. And I was like, I'm just going to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wrote and wrote and wrote a ton of journals. And then I was like, oh, am I writing a book? And so I was like, I'll try it. Never been a writer before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wrote this whole memoir about having a spiritual awakening and what it's like to start over in your 30s. And I wasn't really sure what to do with it. And so I started sketching in my sketchbook, like, what would it look like if it were a book and it were alive?
Mm.
And I started like just, drawing a little shape of a book. And then I had it spin. And inside I started drawing like a picture of a tarot card. It was like tiny, little tiny tarot card. And it was like a fool, like the Fool. And she looked like me. And I was like, oh yeah, this is very similar to the Fool's journey. And I got really curious and excited about drawing my story as tarot cards. And I realized that the book was more cathartic and not to be printed in that version, but the tarot deck just was really calling to me to be made. And I was thinking to myself, who's gonna want this tarot deck with one character who looked like me? I don't know that anybody's gonna want that, but life has other plans. And there were all these like synchronistic moments where people would kind of come out of the woodwork to help me make it.
Oh my goodness.
Like people were reaching out to me like, do you have a graphic designer? Do you need help like with printing? Like, do you need editing? Do you need this? Do you need that? Like, how can we?
Wow.
And it was, I felt like the universe was dragging me.
Yeah. And were you just sharing what you were doing like on Instagram, or how did they know that this deck was coming to be?
So it started off just in my like witch circle where every week we would meet and I would bring the actual physical drawings. And then my friends encouraged me. They're like, you should just share this on your Instagram and talk to people about like what you're going through.
Yeah.
And it was very scary to be that visible and vulnerable. And that's when people started reaching out to help me produce it. And the first iteration of the deck was black and white.
Okay. Oh
so
yeah.
This was our first baby, and she was all. I love it. Like the Nine of Swords is the first card, but yeah. So it was very much being in that liminal space of I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and I'm just kind of like healing. Like this was my little Five of Swords.
Oh yeah. And what year was this that all of this was happening?
This was between. I started the deck. I started drawing it. I wrote the memoir in 2016 and started drawing the deck in 2017, and it came out in March of 2018.
And then when did the second edition come out, and what prompted to do the second one?
It's kind of an interesting. I don't know if anybody else's tarot decks do this, because usually you think of a tarot deck and it's an evergreen thing.
Yeah.
It's going to look the same and it's always going to be, and you can go and buy it. My deck, it's like a living entity that evolves. And so I did the second edition, which was also black and white, but it had more red color in it in 2020. But I knew that it wanted to be something more than that, and I ignored it. And in 2021, it started screaming at me that it was like, this isn't your life anymore. You're not in this space.
Yeah.
Why are you coming back to this place where you're not there anymore? And I don't want to like jump all over the place, but Kim from Wax Crescent reached out to me and asked if she could license my artwork for a set of intention candles. And I was like, yes, but it can't be this artwork, because that energy is not where I'm at right now. And I don't want to put that magic into these candles, because I feel like I'm in such a different space. And that's when everything turned pink. and a lot of the artwork changed. And it is constantly evolving. So the next deck isn't going to look like this either.
So what's coming on with this next deck?
I'm having a lot of fun making that right now. It's going to be very similar. It's still
Okay.
going to be black and white and pink. The artwork is just evolving and showing me new things. So it's
Wow.
pretty exciting.
Wow. And when do you expect that to come out?
I am hoping to have it. I'm not sure if I'm going to go with a Kickstarter again, or if I'm just going to do pre-orders, but I'm hoping to have that out to be available to order in May.
Oh, wow. That's rad. This coming May. Like,
Keep
this
your
is pretty
eyes
fast.
peeled. Yeah. I'm down to the wire of I'm running out of my stock. I only have a couple hundred copies left. So that,
That's perfect timing.
yeah, I was like, do I want to reorder the same edition? And that's when the art was we've changed.
Yeah. And we're going to keep changing.
We have new ideas and we're going to keep changing. So that was this Kickstarter in 2021. I was able to order like 1,200 copies. And so I'm down to like my last couple hundred now. And it's like, that's it.
Wow. That's amazing.
So it's pretty cool.
That's very cool. Yeah. So your deck, I've been working with lately with my Patreon members and just tarot readings that I've been giving, and the energy of the cards when I was playing with them or just working with them, it just has a very soft, compassionate feeling about them, and the way they were translating in those readings were just, everyone just felt like so held, and they were just like supported in a completely different way than, other decks that I've used. And I feel like it's one of those decks that when we do think of our journeys, that it's a support system that's going to help guide you and teach you, but not having like, there's some decks that are like so hard or so like rough, and it's like I can't like handle that at the moment. And then I can always like come over here and be like, okay, you're still going to give me the hard lessons, but it's not going to feel as like hard, it's not going to feel as crushing, I guess you could say. It's like a nice soft landing, and it's like, okay, like I can
Thank
get
you.
to this. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. If you asked me how I would describe it, I always say that like this deck is confrontational without judgment and supportive, like a witchy big sister that loves you unconditionally, but wants you to do the work on your own.
Yeah. It's not going to do it for you, but it just holds this beautiful space for you. And it's just like, okay, like,
thank you.
It's really beautiful. So do you have any, I'd say, sort of advice or any tips for people that are, trying to find their journey, that are like on this space or in this space where they're like, I don't know what's next. Like, how do I find my path? How do I find my purpose? And how they can maybe use the cards to help guide them?
Yes. So I think that unlearning masculine energy is a huge lesson that tarot has taught me, and how to work in feminine energy of surrender and attracting and magnetizing, and really using tarot to distinguish between your intuition and your fears. A lot of times when we are in this void space and we don't know what our purpose is or where we're going, we go to our egoic mind and our brains to give us the answer. And that's when we are spinning and we start grabbing at straws and taking opportunities that aren't really in alignment with us, because we think that's all we're going to get.
Right.
And I think tarot and working with tarot has taught me how to pause and sift between what's meant for me and when I'm forcing something.
And so do you have maybe a spread or like 3 cards or a 3-card spread or something that you go to when you're like, I need something?
Absolutely. I like using like decision-making spreads. So I'll, obviously I don't think it's a great time when you're in a heightened sense of like anxiety and panic to like start pulling cards, because they're just going to reflect your energy. So if you can ground your energy a little bit. So, like we did when you opened this space for us today, like ringing a bell, taking a few deep breaths, lighting a candle, always taking some breaths before you pull the card and ask the question clearly in your mind of like, hey, I'm thinking about this or this, and pull a card for each energy.
Right. Oh yeah, for both
And I
paths.
don't,
Mhm.
so when I pull them, I don't immediately look at them. Like I always lay them face down.
Okay.
So that way I'm not already
Got
thinking
it.
about what's this card well before I even
Got
pull
it.
this one. So I lay it down.
Okay.
And it's helpful to me to write my questions in my journal.
Oh, perfect. So you have a
So that
journal
way,
at the same time.
yes, I always have like the journal next to me, and I'll be
Okay.
like, okay, I'm trying to decide between this job and this job, or, which thing, or there could be multiple things. I've had them like 5 things in a circle, like what's the energy of this place? What's the energy of this? What's the energy of this? And then a second card is what's my energy towards this?
Oh, I love that.
And, if depending on how much time you have, you can go so deep with it. So after you've pulled these cards, then you can flip them over and kind of say, okay, look at these. It's funny, I pulled the King of Pentacles and the Eight of Wands together. So it's like, okay, here's this opportunity that is in the energy of the King of Pentacles, and my energy towards it is the Eight of Wands. So I'm like, yes, let's go.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it. But then you can kind of notice, like, if the card's upside down and what that brings up for you. I think a lot of people are focusing so much on, like, what does this mean? Rather than focusing on, oh, when I see this card upside down, does this give me anxiety? Or am I like, what's that? Because I think that is also something to notice, or which direction are things facing. So like just being aware of the little tiny nuances and what the card is actually bringing up for you, in addition to like, what does that card mean?
Right. And your guidebook is so fantastic.
It's hefty.
It's awesome.
Thank
I love
you.
how big it is, and it's like a full-on book. And I like that you can write in here or highlight things or put little notes or whatever, and it's something that you can actually work with versus a little tiny little thing that might be so small and hard to read. And and you have the reversals in your book, so when people do pull those cards in reverse, they have a little bit of insight. And I always like to connect with intuition first before jumping to the book, of course, but the way that you have everything situated is so beautiful, because you've got the keywords at the very top, then you have the astrology, and then a little bit of numerology, and then you also have, the guide as to what that could mean right side up, and then you also have the reversal. So, and then of course the card on the side there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I would always get really frustrated with beautiful decks that would come with a teeny tiny little booklet that would give like 3
Little
3 keywords or something very small, and then you'd have to go buy a separate book. So I guess even though this deck can be for people who have been reading for 100 years, like you and I, but I wanted to write the guidebook as if I was speaking to somebody who this is the first deck of cards they'll ever pick up, and give them, there's like 21 different tarot spreads in the book.
Yes.
And it starts with 2 card spreads and works it all the way up to 5 cards. There's new moon and full moon rituals with tarot spreads in here too.
It's so beautiful.
And also a deeper dive page into what a reversal could possibly mean. So, wanted to like really give, not just beautiful artwork, but just give some really good, solid information for people.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book, and I love all your spreads in here. And you had mentioned the new moon and full moon and working with the moon cycles. So do you have an active practice with the new moon and full moon, or do you do something in particular for one and not the other? What's your practice or ritual with that?
It is a huge part of my practice to work with moon cycles. I love new moons are my favorite because I
Mhm.
love intention setting, and because, moon void tarot and all
Yeah.
of my experience with jumping off cliffs into the unknown. I prefer to work in the darkness. I actually now am like pretty comfortable there, being
Wow.
uncomfortable. I know, like, as soon as I feel extremely uncomfortable and freaked out, like
Right.
I'm free falling, I'm like, I'm falling into something awesome.
Wow.
What is the universe?
Yeah.
Like, what you got? I work with the new moons to work in darkness and plant seeds of intention. And it's really depending on what the astrology
Mhm.
of that particular new moon. I mean, everybody can just do some type of intention setting ritual, but bringing in the elements
Yes.
of the moon. So, working with water in water moons, and working with fire during fire moon time, and kind of the same thing with a full moon, but a full moon is more about culmination and release.
Yeah.
So those rituals are a little bit different. If, full moons are about kind of the culmination, I work like deeply in gratitude
Got it.
and releasing.
Mhm. And you had mentioned, we were talking about the new moon and the name of your deck, Moon Void. Can you tell us a little bit about, for those that don't know, what does it mean when the moon's in void, and what does that mean to you, and why you chose Moon Void Tarot as your title?
So the moon changes signs every couple of days, and it's like void of course.
Mhm.
It's not making any aspects. So if you are a magical practitioner, we don't do magic during those times. It's a time to rest and take a break and really reflect on all the things you just did before it changes signs and starts making aspects again. And when I wrote my memoir, the memoir was called Void of Course.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because that's how I felt. I felt I was just like a little moon, just hanging out, making no aspects to anything. And when I started making the deck, I remember doing like a deep meditation and asking like what the deck wanted to be called. And it said it wanted to be Moon Void Tarot. And it made perfect sense.
That's so rad. I love it. Everything just seems like, for you in this deck, that things just kind of aligned and came to you. And it was like you went to one thing and then the next step kind of revealed itself, and then you jumped there. It's like the next one revealed itself as you were going.
Totally. I can tell everybody who's listening who may be thinking about making a deck or making significant changes, it sounds really simple and that everything worked out so beautifully, but there were a lot of lessons, a lot of shadow work. I don't want anybody to feel discouraged if their path isn't as fluid and seamless, and it seems like a lot of pushing on a pull door. There is a lot of that too. But just kind of trusting that the timing of things is always perfect, but our human minds want things instantly.
Yeah, for sure. And then I was just looking through your book here, the guidebook, and you have some extra cards in your deck. There's some little secrets in here. Tell me about those extra cards that you've got kind of planted in here.
They came to me during the Kickstarter process, which I had never done before. That was a very new thing for me.
And this is for deck number 2, or?
This is deck number 3, actually.
Number 3, this happened.
So I have 2 black and white ones, and this is the 3rd one. So yeah, the first 2 were just 78 cards, and it didn't occur to me to go outside of that box. And then when I was making the Kickstarter, they were like, what are your stretch goals? And I was like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I could extend the deck and I can make up my own stuff. And I was like, what would I want if I had
the option to do that?
Thank you. Yes. And I was like, I think my favorite, one of my favorite things to work with are crystals. And I was like, what are my power crystals? And I've got my favorite rose quartz tower here.
Gorgeous.
And I'm like, thank you. This was like the inspiration. I was like, I just want a tarot card that is going to tell me I'm okay.
Yeah.
And that like, if I pull it, kind of like if you get the Fool, you're like, oh, I'm going to start a new journey
Right.
and I'm safe in this, but I'm like, I need more confirmation of safety.
Yeah, that's not
So
too
the
safe. It's
two-
like,
Yeah, those two cards are really about, they're connected to your chakras, and they're really about your safety. One rose quartz, you're safe in your heart. So you're safe in love and to be vulnerable in relationships. And then the black diamond is connected to the root chakra and to your crown chakra. So feeling safe in your body and safe in the material realm while being very connected to source and to whatever spirit is for you. And then the third card, I was like, can you just give me a damn like yes or no?
You love it.
Like if it comes up this way, it's a yes. If it comes up this way, it's a no. And thank you.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was fun. So I'm having a blast making up my own things. I don't know if there will be like an oracle deck to come out of it, or if I'll just keep adding when I feel inspired.
Right.
There's no rules.
No, absolutely not. And that's the best part of all of this, is that you get to change and shift and create as you feel and as you're inspired, and that's the best. We love it.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. And usually when I start my my interviews here, I ask about home, and I totally like just ran into your deck. I was like, let's just get in here. But I do want to know, like, what does home mean for you right now? Like, what does that look like?
Such a loaded question. When you told me the concept
like,
of
what?
your podcast, and I'm like, do you understand? Like, I'm like so floating in this like space of in a void space of home.
Yeah.
I've moved so much since I like took that leap of faith and left my home in Florida. I've moved like 8 times in 5 years, and I'm like ready to move again. And I realized that, as within, so without. And our physical space is kind of a reflection of our internal space.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I've been going through this growth and metamorphosis that has definitely presented in my tarot deck, but it's also kind of reflective of my living situation.
Yeah.
So I keep outgrowing my cocoons.
Wow. That is huge. What a reflection. So you guys are looking for another space to move, and do you know what that's going to look like, or what that's going to feel like?
I think that we are definitely needing to move from our current space for various reasons. And now that we're together, I think we're getting married, and
it's amazing.
By the time this comes out, we'll be newlyweds, and we're looking to, possibly start a family.
Gorgeous.
So just upgrading to a space where that could really happen. So I don't know if that's going to be in San Diego or in California at all.
Yeah.
We're looking at all sorts of places.
That's so
TBD.
rad. I love that you're always like in this space, and I feel like it's encouraging for others too to know that you don't always have to know the plan. You don't always have to know what's going to happen, and when that is the case, how do you stay grounded? How do you connect back to yourself? How do you navigate that world?
Some days I've got it, and other days I have to just cry it out and journal it out and go for a long walk. But other times I'm like, okay, I have to remember that I'm trusting the universe. When I started this journey, obviously I was in a very different line of work, and this has become what I do, and the type of work I do can be done from anywhere. So realizing that like home is really in my body and not a physical space, and detaching from needing to see physical representation of these things that I think I need. But yeah, a lot of tears, a lot of journaling, a lot of tarot.
All these things.
And then it happens, and you're like, oh my God, this was so much fun.
After
we like get it,
gone
like
through it.
after the roller coaster, and you're like, and then afterwards you're like, wow, that was so cool. And I learned so much. And like, I have all of this really awesome stuff to show for it. But like going through it is not super easy always.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
it's my path. And I, at least for now, at
Yeah.
this stage in my life.
Yeah, exactly. And so I always ask as well, like, what rituals are you currently practicing, or do you have any rituals that you are doing at the moment that are feeling good?
Yeah. So I've been working a lot with rituals to increase my intuition, and a lot of my rituals are based around making art and creating.
Oh my gosh,
And so having a lot of alone time to do that.
that's incredible.
And I think like a ritual can be really involved and really, it can be chanting, and it can be casting circles, and it can be building altars. And it is that to some extent, but a ritual can also be taking a beautiful walk in nature and turning your phone off. A ritual for me is not going on Instagram first thing in the morning, like taking that first hour of the day just fully to myself to pull my cards for the day, enjoy my coffee, ground my energy, and make sure that I've given everything I need to myself before I can give to other people.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's huge. And then I know we spoke about you creating this new edition of this deck. And is there anything else brewing besides that and moving? And you've already like kind of covered this entire realm.
I know. I took all the notes that you had sent, and I like wrote everything out.
Oh my gosh.
And it just
just came out.
So I have for people who love and miss the black and white version of the deck, there's actually a French language version coming out.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And that's the black and white one?
And they've done a really beautiful job with it. They took the red to new levels, and this has, been a few years in the making. The pandemic pushed it, and I wasn't sure if it was going to happen, but it's going to be gorgeous, and it's coming out sometime in April.
That's beautiful.
There's that, and then the Empress edition of Moon Void will be available soon.
So excited.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to like send
my
me.
biggest things.
Yeah, I'll have to share the links and all of that once it comes out. I'll push it out and see what comes of it. That's so exciting. Ugh, just love it. And then how can our listeners reach out to you? How can we connect with you? How can we get this gorgeous deck, the one that's you've got, what you said, a couple hundred left, and then that's it.
And then that's it. And I kind of like that. Everything is available on my website, moonvoidtarot.com. All my social links are on there as well. But if you want to connect with me and say hello, I live on Instagram at moonvoidtarot is my handle. And beautiful. That is my only account.
I know there's been like so many scamming situations going on. It's like nut. Yeah. Okay. So we'll have all of that. I know. Put that to the side. But we'll have all of your connections in the show notes and ways to get with you. And yeah, I'm so excited. And I know a lot of the people on Patreon, or at least in my Patreon membership, have really been enjoying your deck. And yeah, it's gorgeous. Well, thank you, Stephanie.
You so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here with us. All right, take care.
You too.
You've been listening to the Holistic Interior Design Podcast. If it's one that you have been enjoying, please share with anyone else that you think can benefit from this knowledge, and leave us a 5-star review that helps us get seen and found by other new and aspiring interior designers. And if you're looking for mentorship, I invite you to join our club here at the Design Coven. It's a bridge between school and real life interior design. We get in much deeper there. We have virtual and in-person events, so everyone is welcome. You don't need to have a design degree to be part of it, just an interest in holistic interior design. I also want to thank our editor, Marcy Ferry, and lastly, Kinseth Thibodeau, who is our music composer. Until next time, be well, and we will see each other soon.